Welcome everyone. I'm Angie Garber with the Marketing Department here at AvisaCon. For those of you who are new to AvisaCon webinar series, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about us. Our mission is to boost your project management efficiencies by optimizing your processes and technologies, creating measurable results that empower you and your organization. AvisaCon has over 20 years in the project management industry and is a gold-level project partner with Microsoft. No matter your company size, our team specializes in maximizing your business and personal productivity by leveraging the Microsoft technology experience. For those of you who join us on a weekly basis, you know that today's session is part of our weekly series we refer to as Webinar Wednesday. Each week the topic is different and designed to give you helpful information that will have a direct impact on your day-to-day tasks. Today's webinar session will be a half-hour in length, which means it also qualifies for half a PDU. I'll give you more information about that at the end of our time together. If you have any questions or need clarification during our time together, please utilize the questions section of the control panel. We will do our best to address them during our session, but if we are unable to, please know that we will reach out shortly afterwards with the answer. It is now my pleasure to welcome today's presenter, AvisaCon's Director of Client Solutions, Mr. Ken Lowen. Ken?
Thanks very much, Angie, and hello everybody. Thanks for joining us for Webinar Wednesday today as we talk about Visio tips, tricks, and best practices for project managers. I'm glad to be with you today. I've got a lot of content, so I'm not going to dwell on the Who I Am slide as we jump right on into our material today. Our agenda today, we're going to start off with a little bit of a caution for those who, kind of like me, want to constantly be on maybe the bleeding edge of technology. But we're going to precede our tips and tricks by looking at some of the what's new in the latest versions of Visio. And then we're going to get into tips and tricks. A lot of these are oldies but goodies, some things I've used for a long time. They've been available for a while, but there's some things that when I show them to people, and we do in-person tips and tricks sessions. Microsoft will sponsor those for organizations. I usually get a lot of oohs and ahs at some of these, and so these are the ones that have been time-tested, the ones that people come up at the end and say, you know, that was new. That's going to be fun. I'm going to look forward to using that right away. I doubt we'll have time for questions during our 30 minutes today, but please do post them into the questions window in your GoToWebinar panel, and if we don't have an opportunity to get to it during the webinar, we will get to you after the fact. And if you think of something afterwards or just want to, please feel free to send an email to us, and you see my email at the bottom of the screen. I do want to start off with a quick poll. This was kind of fun when I did it several months ago, and so I'd like to see right now what your experience level is with Visio. So if you would go ahead and enter the question there. So everything from what is that? I'm here for the free food, to I opened Visio once by mistake and really haven't ever tried to use it on purpose. Certainly that happens with the blue icon that looks just like Word. I've used it a few times, and whether you like something else. And then, do you use Visio occasionally, use Visio frequently? And it looks like we're getting a good sample. It looks like we've got just about everybody has voted. And we just had a few more people join the webinar, so I'm going to give you just a few minutes to vote on our polling question to indicate what your experience is with Visio. And let me just take a couple of beats for you to take a look at those 5 options, kind of from least experience at the top to most experience down at the bottom. And we're going to close the poll out. Looks like we've stabilized on participation. Okay, we'll close that out now, and I am going to share the results with you. And so we see there is a small percentage have indicated that they're not very familiar at all, but we're pretty well split between about half have used Visio occasionally and a third use Visio fairly frequently, and that's great. Glad to see the excuse me, folks using it occasionally as well as those frequently. And hopefully the material that we go through here today is going to help those of you who do have experience with it feel more comfortable using it, maybe even get more productive, and we will hopefully get those of you who have not used it feeling like there's maybe some fun stuff that you want to get in and use. So I indicated we wanted to ask the question, are you ready? Are you really, really ready? One of the use cases for Visio that I find particularly useful is to diagram my workflows in SharePoint where I use SharePoint both for Project Online and otherwise. The latest version that has been released by Microsoft of the SharePoint Designer tool is 2013 for actually creating those workflows if you use SharePoint Designer, and you've got to maintain version compatibility with Visio. So if you're going to use SharePoint Designer 2013 for creating your workflows, you need to stay on Visio Professional 2013 if you want to use it for doing the diagramming of those workflows. And what you will see here at the bottom is just an image of that. There is a series of SharePoint stencils in Visio, starting with the 2013 version, that allow you to diagram those workflows and then import the workflows from Visio into SharePoint Designer and publish them into your SharePoint environment. It's a great capability. I've done a previous webinar on that, and so we'll commend you to our YouTube channel to take a look at that. But, so assuming that you are actually interested in the current versions of Visio, there are probably three that are really in play for the folks that I'm kind of addressing with the remarks today. Visio 2013, so for those of you who purposefully have elected to stay on that version or just haven't had an opportunity to upgrade. Then there's Visio 2016 for the one-time purchaser effectively. You've got a license for that. And then there's Visio for Office 365. And so we will talk about which version of the new features the features apply to and are available in, because they're not always available in all of them. We talk about Office 365 as bringing us evergreen capabilities, so you're always seeing the latest and greatest features, and then the version releases 2016 and so on lag behind that. When you're on Office 365, your Office 365 administrator can choose to put your organization onto either a standard release cycle or a first release cycle, and you see the definitions of those on the left and right half of the screen. And if your administrator chooses first release, some or all of those people can be set up to receive updates early. And the roadmap, the URL of which I put down at the bottom, and if you just do an online search for the Office 365 roadmap, it should reveal this link to you. Will give you more details as to what is coming, what's been prioritized, what's been requested, and whether it is in the process of being released or whether the release has completed, because when they actually do release the features, it's often in a flighted perspective where some percentage of the users will get it every so often rather than just literally turning on a switch and having everybody see it. But let's go on now. There's about 9 things I want to talk about as being new in Visio 2016. We've got a list there, but I'm going to zip on to start talking about the first one in order to keep us going. So Visio Online Public Preview. The Visio Online allows anybody access to Visio diagrams via a web browser. So if you're wanting to share your diagrams with people who don't have Visio on their workstation, that is now possible to you. And so the third bullet there, we talk about information workers, which is a term Microsoft has used for a number of years. But think of that as people who are working with the rest of the Office suite, but they actually don't have the Visio client installed, or you're working at a workstation where you don't have the Visio client installed. You can then view the diagrams in full fidelity from nearly anywhere. And so what you typically can do is that you will see the the sharing window here, and when you actually attach the document and it's stored in Office 365 or OneDrive for Business, what you'll see here is by default it's going to come up here and it's going to say recipients can edit the document. So you're sending them a link to the document rather than attaching the actual document. So that'll keep the size of your email down. So you know, maybe you've got bandwidth constraints, either the recipient does or the sender does, and this will and this is something I've hoped for and kind of lobbied for in the past. It looks in all of your searches as if there's an attached document to this, but it's just smaller, which is really handy. Once you see that, then the recipient will then get an email like this one. So I sent that notification actually to my Hotmail account so that it would not resolve. And you see that there's an indication that it is a OneDrive for Business file, and there's a link that's attached there. And once I click on it and get it, it gives me the opportunity to log in and look at it. And then once I have done that, excuse me, an email will be sent back to the person who shared this, notifying that somebody has accessed that link and giving you the opportunity to remove the access that you shared once you see that. So pretty powerful, really clever implementation. I like it a lot. You do need to make sure that if you've got people who are maybe online constrained, that they might not have the ability to go click on those links. You know, maybe you've got somebody who you're targeting who's going to be up on a plane and they're not going to be getting the powerful bandwidth or something like that, and so you may actually need to send them the actual document. If they're planning to be someplace, they can download it and then read it after the fact. So do think about that. Next feature to talk about, third-party templates and diagrams. And so if we pull up our Visio screen and start looking at our new windows, we see that we've got a lot of new templates, and the functionality that's being talked about here is that a lot of the partners in the ecosystem are making new templates available, and so the search is very powerful. You can go out and through this search window search to find other templates that don't appear by default in your Visio on your desktop. Okay, so that is in the process of rolling out. You should see more and more of that if you're using Visio for Office 365. Providing feedback is easier. So this is in Visio for Office 365, and what you see is that down here at the bottom, together with account and options, there's a new selection there for feedback, and you can quickly put information into the queue for Microsoft's product team to evaluate. And this is really powerful. I know for a fact that they do review the information that comes in through here. There's also a tool called User Voice, and if you're interested in submitting suggestions for other Office products like Excel, Word, Outlook, there are user voice forums for those also, and so you might do an online search. If the feedback link in those applications hasn't yet arrived, you can search for User Voice with no space and Outlook or Excel. Let's see, next thing, if you are using the Unified Modeling language, there are some new types of diagrams that are available to you now. Component diagrams, communication diagrams, and deployment diagrams are new, and the note is these are available to the Visio Pro for Office 365 subscribers only, so they're not yet out in the Visio 2016. Moving forward, enhanced AutoCAD support, also for Visio Pro for Office 365. You can now import or open files that are from any existing version of AutoCAD. You've got some improved scaling opportunities, great improvement in the import speed of AutoCAD files, and they have improved the rendering of shapes on top of the CAD files. So hopefully some of you will appreciate that functionality. or somebody in your organization might. This is one that's especially exciting for me, is that one of the capabilities that I've used and demonstrated with Visio a lot in the past is the data linking capability, where I can actually link shapes to underlying data, and I do that particularly with regards to Project Online, where I will have a diagram of a project flow, and I will link the shapes to the underlying project schedule so that when I or another project manager will update the status of tasks, the Visio diagram that I publish in the SharePoint project site for those sites will automatically be updated, and I can use that as a progress dashboard for my projects. And so this has actually been out for over a year as this quick import data connectivity with Excel. You were previously several clicks from doing that, and so that was a great improvement. Information rights management also came in September of 2015. And so you can protect sensitive information from leaking out. If you're setting information rights management on an email message in Outlook, an attached Visio file to that message will also be protected. Okay, so Microsoft has also modernized a lot of the shapes, and so you can see in the change from left to right in each of these groups that you're getting a lot more graphically appealing data. So what we're seeing, what I'm seeing there is that the use case for Visio is moving out of the out of the dark corners of organizations and into the light, so that people are starting to demand a little higher quality in their visualizations. And then starter diagrams came out, and so when you've got various diagrams that you're creating using the templates in Visio, what you'll get is you'll get a diagram that actually shows you how it's supposed to be created and used, along with some tips and tricks to make better use of it. So Microsoft really addressing the folks who are new to Visio and trying to accelerate your progress at moving up with that. So with that, we've addressed all of the new features that I wanted to highlight to bring us up to date since we last looked at new features. And what I want to do is move on over into looking at some of the tips and tricks that those of us who work with Visio can make better use of it now. And so with our diagram here, I've got an open Visio diagram, and so the one that I typically will start with, and I use this also in Project especially and in Excel, is working with my quick access toolbar right here and customizing what appears in it, because there's usually just a couple of icons there, and then moving it down below the ribbon so that it comes down here, because when I'm using it, I'm down working in my my workspace right down here, and what I'd want to do is I want to go up to use the quick launch tool, the quick access toolbar, before I get to the ribbon rather than going all the way up through the ribbon. So that's one of my hints, is to move it down below the ribbon and then pull in things like save as right here, so that you can quickly save as a new file name, and then I do print preview so that I'm not necessarily kicking it off to a page, because just like printing your project schedules in Project, you may need to do some tuning of a Visio diagram in order to get it onto the right number of pages. And so doing the print preview rather than just going to the quick print is something that is a strong recommendation. Next thing that we talked about, of course, was our diagram templates. And so we looked at having both the new ones here that come with Visio, but the other thing that I want to show you is the idea of personal templates. And so if you are, if you've already set this up, you'll have an option here for personal templates. If you haven't set it up, you won't have one, and so I'm going to show you how to do that. But what I put into my personal templates are some actual customized templates for Advisicon, and I'll go show you what I've got in those in just a minute. But first I want to show you how to set this up. We start off by going over to Options, and then we're going to go to our Save tab under Visio Options, and then right here where it says Default Personal Templates Location, you need to set a location there. And what I've done here is I've put that under my Documents folder in OneDrive for Business, so that the folders are there and they're accessible from any machine that I use that accesses my OneDrive for Business, rather than having them sit on just this one particular laptop. So the idea is create a location there. I've got custom office templates is what this is called, and I've actually got my Word and Excel templates in the same folder, so that it's easy for me to remember where those are for when I need to set this. But do set your personal templates location and save Visio templates in there. So now what I want to show you is what I've created in terms of a new template. And so I'm going to go to File and New, and I've got my personal template there, and I've got several of these. So I'm going to pull this one that is set up for a letter-sized page. And what I've got here is a starting place for drawing a process diagram. And so you can see that I've got my flowchart stencil selected over here. And think back to when you were actually drawing maybe flowcharts with a pencil and an actual stencil, one of those plastic ones with the holes cut in it in the different shapes. So that's why we're calling these stencils, is the stencil contains multiple shapes. And I've got a background on here, and so the Advisicon logo, the frame around the page, the word process, and the word revision date are on my background page, and the page 1 and the date are on the page that I'm working on. And so if I choose to right-click over where the tab is here in page 1 and rename this, and I say Basic Process, then my diagram changes to automatically reflect that. And we take a look at this other page. So I just created a new page. I named it Background, and when I right-click on it and select Page Setup, you can see that what I did was I changed it to the type of background and gave it the name Background. And on my first page up here, where it's Basic Process, in Page Setup, I selected that it's going to have as its background the page that's labeled background. And you can have multiple backgrounds if you want to. I want to show you a little bit other things here. So there's the idea of doing your print setup and selecting which paper you wanted to use from your printer, identifying what page size and whether you want to let Visio expand the page as necessary. A drawing scale, so if you're doing architectural diagrams or others that use a predefined scale, you can do that here. We looked at our page properties there. Layout and routing, you can change this so that this is going to apply, instead of as a flow chart, it'll be an organizational chart, and maybe it's going to go top to bottom instead of left to right. You can also have your lines, your connectors, as rounded corners or sharp corners if you want to. And what I did here for this field was that I just put into that field right here where it says Insert and Field, I said from the page info I'm going to put in the field name. And so that's what and then I just formatted it as first character capitalized. So that's how I set that up to automatically do that type of a diagram for myself. And so we've looked at our templates there. We've got our stencils and shapes, and you can certainly go to more here. You can also, excuse me, download stencils that are made available from partners and use those stencils in your diagrams. And so what we'll find is that networking system hardware companies or other computer companies will deploy stencils that represent their actual equipment to make those diagrams effective and efficient for people. We can also go into our flowchart, and you'll see here these are the SharePoint 2013 workflow conditions and components that I alluded to earlier, as well as the actions. So the combination of those three will help you. And then the last one that I want to talk about here is AutoConnect. And so the important thing to know about AutoConnect is you actually do need to turn it on in order to have it available to you. And so we're going to go over to our backstage view there and select File and then Options, and then in our Visio options we're going to click on Advanced, and you've got to make sure that you have Enable AutoConnect turned on there, and then and I do, and then we're going to go into our View menu off of the ribbon, and on the ribbon right here in the center you've got AutoConnect turned on also. So you got to have both of those on, and then what happens when you do a diagram is that you can then get new diagram or new let's see the shapes there. Here we are, basic shapes. What I was going to diagram, there we are. So when I hover over this, you see the blue pointers, and it's going to actually create a new shape of the type that I hover over with a connector automatically when AutoConnect is turned on. So I wanted to quickly sum up with a couple of quick reminders of past material that we've covered. If you go to our YouTube channel, you can find previous Visio timelines video. You can find a Shapes data and data linking webinar Wednesday session there. Again, that's youtube.com/advisicon. And I did one on workflow. And with that, Angie, I think we are just about out of time. So let me hand it over to you for some summary remarks.
Thanks, Ken. That was a lot of useful information. Now, I'd like to invite those interested in having an opportunity to explore some of the Microsoft technologies that you've seen demonstrated in our sessions, such as Microsoft Project, SharePoint, Power BI, or anything with Office 365. We would love to set you up with a free trial and demonstration for you and your team, so please feel free to reach out and we can get that set up for you. As I mentioned at the beginning of our time together, today's session does qualify for half a PDU. The only thing I need you to do is to fill out the short survey that will appear in your browser once I close this session. Our webinar Wednesdays are designed with you in mind and are largely made by you, as each topic is based off your comments and input. So please give us your feedback and we will do our best to accommodate. Once I receive your survey input, you'll receive an email from me tomorrow with the PDU number. Also, today's session is recorded and will be uploaded to AdvisoCon's YouTube channel later today. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, I highly recommend it as it contains recordings from our previous sessions along with several additional tutorials and how-to videos which are very helpful. With that being said, I believe we've covered everything. If you have anything further, please feel free to reach out directly to Ken, myself, or any of us here at AdvisoCon via website or by phone. We are here for you and would love to answer any questions you have. On behalf of myself, Ken, and the AdvisoCon team, we want to thank you for joining us and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for joining us.